creating a daily routine, specifically a daily routine for your kids when you're stuck at home and maybe just running out of things to do with them. Um, Today, I'm presenting. My name's Tiffany Cochran. I am a board certified behavior analyst, and I'm working with various Head Start sites in the Northeast Kingdom. I'm currently working as the director of autism advocacy and intervention, but working through a contract with Head Start. And also we have Sarah Couturier on the call. She's going to be taking some notes and just kind of getting information out to parents after this training or about this training. So let me move this. Can you guys, when you see my screen, can you see all of these faces on the screen too?
The faces?
Yeah, the faces
Yeah.
of the, you can? Okay,
Yeah.
I'm gonna make that smaller just so that we can see the whole slide. So really the reason I picked this first topic as daily routine is it's, you know, I'm hearing a lot on the news, professionals saying that it's really important to build a daily routine for your kids, and, you know, stick to that routine as much as possible. But there hasn't been a whole bunch of information about how to actually do that and really do that in a way where it's actually going to work for your family. So why do they need a daily routine? Pretty quick answer is just to help foster some stability, to really give the kids some expectations so that they know what the day will hold day in and day out. We do that a lot in the classrooms already. They're following a pretty predictable classroom schedule. And on a more complex side of that, it helps kids build some self-management skills. It helps them understand a little bit more about what to expect in the coming day, and make it easy. It makes it easier for parents to really keep their kids occupied throughout the day. And that doesn't mean that the parents have to be on all day long. I think that that's quite the opposite. The purpose of the routine is really to build in times where parents are able to jump in and help their kids maybe with some of their academic stuff to keep up with school, or to have some fun little projects. But also it builds in some downtime that's kind of time limited, so that the kids aren't necessarily just kind of sitting on the couch all day. So it's a really good skill to have in everyday life, but it's also a great skill to use right now while everybody is home and working through different types of activities and trying to keep the kids moving without having meltdowns and a lot of difficult behaviors. And that's one of the biggest things that having a daily routine can help with. If there's some predictability in the day, you're less likely to see outbursts of challenging behaviors from your children. So it really is one of the first things I usually do when I start working with families in the home anyway, is really start working on their routine. So that's why we're talking about it today. And, you know, I want to remind any of you who are on here, if you want to ask questions, just jump in, or if you have thoughts on anything we're talking about, you can jump in and add anything you're thinking of.
This is Ashley. I know that we have had a really hard time because I'm partially working from home, partially working in my office, and just trying to find that structure of a daily routine, because it's me and his grandparents that are trying to help keep him doing what he needs to do for preschool, but also trying to keep him entertained while I'm working at home.
I totally understand that, and having to balance working from home with having your children home with you is probably one of the more challenging parts of the situation that we're all currently in. So I'm really hopeful that some of the info that we share today will help you. And I think that um, that everything that I'm kind of giving you today for information can be adapted to any one person's specific situation. There's a lot of flexibility in how to set this up. So I'm very hopeful it'll help you out. Um, and do you currently have grandparents still helping out at home?
Yeah, we live with grandparents. So if it's not me, it's actually really his grandpa done a lot of the schooling part, because when I'm home, I have to be on the computer to work.
Right. So yeah, I think this information will be really helpful because it can help plan out the day and make it a little easier to make it through the day. Let's see, how do I move to my next slide? Here we go. Okay, so the first step, I'm going to jump right into how you, oh, it's going backwards, sorry. I'm going to jump right into how to build it. And like I said, jump in and ask questions along the way if you have any. So the first step that I would suggest to any parent or grandparent who is home with their kids is to make a big list of activities. And I think there should be some different categories in this list. One of the categories that's really important is the academic category. You can also add self-care activities. That's like bathing, brushing your teeth, maybe making your bed if that's something that your child is able to do. And then a bunch of different fun and playtime, downtime sort of activities. And then meals they're an activity, so you put those in the schedule too. And it doesn't have to be anything too crazy, but the more activities you have on your list, the more variation you can get in your routine throughout the week. So that's the first thing. And when I send this training out, I actually have a whole list of different ideas, like a beginning list of ideas of activities that should be kind of included in each child's day. And since you're phoning in, I'm actually just going to read them so you have an idea of what I've kind of pulled together at this point.
Okay.
So I have a self-care category that includes brushing your teeth in the morning, brushing your teeth in the evening, bathing or showering, combing and brushing hair, getting dressed. I'm sure there's more that could go in that category, but those seem to be things that stuck out to me as appropriate for preschool age kids and self-care. And then I have an academic category. And the first thing I say is the biggest thing I can say about academics is find opportunities to build academic learning into other activities. So a lot of parents are really struggling with the idea of building academics into their child's day, but you can build academics into, playing with Play-Doh by rolling balls out and counting how many balls you're working on counting, working on number sense and math. And I can talk a little bit more about that later. Academics also can include reading together, practicing writing letters, names, words, numbers, maybe practicing drawing shapes, or even just holding the pencil if that's where your child is in that skill. Counting items in the home, a really good way to work on that number sense is just, anytime that you're doing something that involves more than one piece, you can count those pieces out. Some activities that some people don't really think of including their kids in all the time, but that need to get done anyway, are help around the house activities. So this includes having the kids help prepare meals when possible and when safe. Having them set the table, including them in cleanup and cleaning around the house, including them in doing the dishes, if that's something that you can do in your home. I know some families are a little wary of that one because they don't want all their dishes broken, but
It happens.
it does happen. But it takes up time, That's my biggest thing I'll say about these kinds of activities is they take up time and they need to be done anyway at some point. So why not use this chance to teach your kids some of those skills or include them in some of those skills?
And I'll say too, we have some picky eaters, and since we've been home for the last week and a half, I've been having one of my kids help me a lot in the kitchen, and they've been proud of the stuff that we've made and a lot more likely to eat it. So I know that can be helpful too, especially with preschoolers. Um, and then, being able to share like, wow, look what a great job they did, helping mix this up or cook this, is another opportunity to add some positive spin on it too.
Exactly. And I think that's such a good point, Jen, that kids, maybe picky eaters, might buy into trying a new food a little bit faster if they helped to make it and understood what went into that meal.
Mhm.
And then they get the pride of watching their family members eat and enjoy that meal as well. So thank you. That's a really good addition.
Mhm.
Um, I think another really good one is laundry, and laundry is a great time to practice matching, to practice um, some gross motor stuff. If you're teaching them to fold things,
Mhm.
um, you can use laundry as a great opportunity to talk about different types of colors, to talk about, how many socks do we have? Let's count all of the socks. Um, you can talk about bigger and smaller when you separate the laundry into piles for different people in the home. Who has the biggest pile, who has the smallest pile. And it's another one of those activities that probably needs to be done at some point anyway. So why not include the kids and turn it into a little bit of a learning experience for them. Some other things, if you have a pet, feeding the pet and walking the pet, learning about the pet. Maybe if you have a dog, you can have mom, dad, grandparents can look up what type of dog that you have and maybe watch videos about that type of dog so you can learn more about pet care and you know what your dog where your dog came from. Finding opportunities to build in these little learning moments will definitely break up the day a little bit, but it also will keep their minds sharp while they're not in school. um, there should always be downtime included in the day. That should include reading every single day. Um, and then if the child still naps, the nap time should stay consistent every day. It's really, really important to keep some things very consistent. Downtime can include TV and other devices. I think that should be kind of used as a last resort or in a scheduled way, like you only have TV at this time of day. And obviously there are points where you might need to just say, you know what, I'm working right now from home, and I need my child to be calm and entertained, and I understand that that's something that may need to happen, is a little extra TV time to make that happen. But whenever possible, you want to try to break that time up and do things that will get your child moving and get energy, out of their system so that they can keep a good sleep schedule and keep, a better routine. Um, some examples of fun time or playtime activities are playing with toys, making forts using, sheets and blankets over chairs, playing outside if it is safe in your area to do so. So if you have your own backyard, playing outside is still a great activity. But at this point, with the health recommendations, you should not be bringing your kids to parks or anything like that. And again, going for a walk if it's safe in your area and you're able to do that, you know, if you're not on a main road, for one thing, or even if you are, just making sure that that walk is really safe for you and your child. One of my favorite things to do with kids is scavenger hunts. It takes up a lot of time and you can make them take as long or as little time as you want. And later on, I'll give some resources, some online resources for making your own scavenger hunt. And these can be done in the house or they can be done outside. But it's a lot of fun because you can kind of just make a list for yourself and say, okay, we're going to do a scavenger hunt. Now I need you to go find something that is round and red. And the kid can look around for, 10 minutes looking for something round and red, and it just breaks up some time. Um, I think dance parties and sing-alongs are really good. Any sort of movement exercise, kids yoga, arts and crafts, those are all really good. Um, and then the schedule will always include meals, breakfast, lunch, dinner, maybe a snack if that's something that your family does. Um, and um, and I think, it sounds like a lot of different activities, but when we start talking about breaking them down into the day, it does make a lot of sense to have that many activities or even more.
So I have a question about going back to activities. There's several different ones. Like if you do a scavenger hunt one day and yoga the next, should you be allotting a time for those so that you're not messing up a routine?
Somewhat. And I think that I'm not sure if you guys could hear her on the computer. Could you hear her?
Yeah.
Okay, so yes, there are some things in the schedule that I'm going to recommend you keep the same every single day. So, and it'll be a little more clear to you, Ashley, when I send the slides out and you can actually see what we're looking at too. There are some things that should always be done, in the morning just to keep that wake up routine going. And then as we move throughout the day, there are other things like I suggest a very structured lunch into after lunchtime where it brings them into that quiet rest time that the kids are used to. But other than that, there's a lot of flexibility about when you do what activities you do. So that's an awesome question.
Can I give example of kind of what our schedule has been so she can understand?
Yeah, Ashley, can you hear Jen?
I can.
Okay, go ahead.
So in the we've been starting, so I have teenagers and an 8-year-old. So the expectation for them is that they're ready to start doing some academic stuff by like 9. So whenever they wake up until then is breakfast and sort of that self-care, getting dressed, waking up. And then from 9 to 11, we've been doing, working on their stuff that they have for school. So for a preschooler would be a little bit different. I think you might want to shorten that time frame, but having like a chunk of time where it's like maybe some sensory play, a chunk of time where there's some like motor play, a chunk of time where there's outside, and what you're doing in those chunks could be different every day. But the kids know that, at this time is when we're going to be doing sort of that gross motor stuff or some quiet stuff, so the activities can be different, but you're kind of doing the same type of thing, the same hours of the day, if that makes sense.
Yes, thank you.
Yes, absolutely. You have such great questions. I'm really appreciative of that. Okay, so we're gonna jump into kind of step 2, and like I said, this will be a lot more clear when you can see it. But I think it will also help. One of the things that I think you should try to do is before 9:30 in the morning, and 9:30 is just an arbitrary time that I picked. So for your family, it could be before 9 o'clock. The child should have their teeth brushed, their hair brushed. They should get dressed even if they're staying in all day. They should still go through that routine of getting dressed for the day. And then they can help make and serve breakfast, eat breakfast, and clean up. So that's all stuff that I really recommend keeping the same, so that when the child goes back to school, they're still used to a wake up routine. And maybe the child ate breakfast at school, and that's something you wouldn't have to do in the future, but you still want to keep a pretty reasonable wake up time and wake up routine, just so that the transition back will be a lot easier for them. And then I also really recommend make your schedule easy to follow. You're listing your activities. The schedule is really for mom and dad and grandparents or whoever's taking care of the child. You're listing the activities out just to give yourself some general time frames so that you don't kind of get lost in the middle of the day and just sit there like, oh, what do we do now? So it's really should be easy to follow. Don't stress if you miss one thing or you don't get to one thing. That's just, part of everyday life. Things change, and be flexible. Um, so building out the schedule, I find that it's easiest to separate the day by meal times. That's my personal preference, but it might be easier for specific families to separate them in a different way. Um, so by separating it by meal times, it does allow you to provide some simple cues to your child when they ask for something like TV or iPad or something like that. If you already know when that's going to be available for them in their schedule, you can really answer them in a clear way, like, yeah, we can do that after breakfast, or it looks like that's on the schedule after lunch. You can really just say, give them an idea of when that's going to happen. Um, and again, I recommend being kind of flexible, because your kid might come to you in the morning and say, I really want to, you know, go find sticks in the backyard later. Um, that's an okay activity, and it can totally be built into the day. So even if it's not what you originally were thinking for the day, it's something that can be added. And finding stuff in the backyard, you can do that in the context of a scavenger hunt or something like that. For building out the actual schedule, so we're talking after breakfast time, I recommend choosing one or two activities from each of the categories we talked about earlier. So the, academic and fun, uh, playtime sort of categories, home care, and just list them out for yourself. You could have some variations on this that I'll talk about later that would include the child in making the schedule. Um, but an example would be, after breakfast, but before lunch, the things that are on the schedule are a home care item, which is helping with laundry, an academic, counting items. And I threw in there that I think socks are really good for counting, because you can build that into your laundry time. Um, Something fun like making a fort or playing outside. And then another academic activity like writing or tracing letters. I threw in a couple more fun activities, coloring and going outside, and then a home activity, make and serve lunch. Um, and you might find that for your family, you only need 3 of those activities in the middle there. If you have a child who has a lot of energy and moves from activity to activity pretty quickly, you'll want to fill in a few extra activities just to help them through the day. Um, and if you need to, if you're a parent who's home working and you need your child to be a little more independent during that time, then you would want to choose some of those activities that don't require as much adult help, just depending on the needs of your specific family. And then it's lunchtime. And so you've made it through half the day. You're already halfway there. Um, and lunchtime is an activity in itself. So you can take your time with lunchtime and talk to them about where the food came from, really just have a lot of fun with building this out into a structured sort of day. And then I threw in a little reminder there, remember to wash your hands. And this page actually has a little visual on washing hands. I'm going to send that visual out to the Head Start teachers as well, that they can share it with their families if they'd like to.
I was just going to ask you if you thought it would be useful for visuals. So that's great that you included those, because when they get these, they can just maybe print them, or even if you just can draw a simple picture.
Yes, and I am going to send out, along with these slides, I have a resource that came from another organization called Easter Seals.
Yep.
And they actually created this awesome schedule resource with a bunch of printables. So I will be sending that out, and some families will find it helpful, and some families will probably not want to use it. But I think that's a good, helpful resource for people who want to do something a little more visual for the child.
Yeah.
So again, on building the schedule, some helpful hints: keep some things the same every day. A little bit of predictability does help decrease challenging behavior. That is something that has been proven in, behavioral research. It's good for kids to have some routine and predictability, that they can rely on, and it helps ease anxiety and stress, especially in a time where everybody's feeling a little bit more anxious about what's going on in the world. Um, Typically, the Head Start kids are having a little rest time in the afternoon. This is a good place for you to keep the schedule same. It helps them feel a little bit of comfort in having that carryover that they're used to. And rest time is good for mom, dad, grandparents, babysitters too. A little bit of downtime never hurts anyone, right? um, so what I suggest is, if after lunch, do a quick cleanup, wash hands, and then go right into that downtime. Maybe brush teeth at this point if you want to build an extra time to toothbrush into the day. Um, but really, this is the time where if your child naps, you want to start having them ease into a nap time. It's a really good time to kind of cuddle and read. For parents who are really, working from home and really can't do as much hands-on, this is a time you might allow some time on a tablet or on the TV, but really just some quiet downtime. And I would suggest at least 30 minutes.
Do you guys know if, like, he's in the Barton Kofac and he does take the 30-minute nap, but do they ease off on that as they get closer to transitioning into kindergarten? Or is that constant from September till June?
That's a really good question. I can answer that because I am in the classrooms a lot. They do, so the rest time is offered. The kids they don't have to sleep during that time. And so as they do start to get closer to the summer and start to transition them to kindergarten, I do think they do ease up on that, and they offer them a quiet activity to do, so that, because in kindergarten, they don't get that opportunity to take that nap. They usually do have a quiet time, but they're not really expected to or allowed to sleep. So yes, they do sort of ease up on that. And the option, is to do a quiet activity at a table, read a book, look at a book. But they are still kind of expected to be quiet because there's other friends that are usually sleeping. So yeah, they do.
So just go with it. If he's willing to take a nap, let him take a nap. If he wants to be quiet, let him be quiet.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to gauge that time for him.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
If I can suggest audiobooks as well, that's what I do at my house. As soon as the audiobooks come on, there are times where they may not sleep, but they'll want to rest for 30 minutes to 45 minutes just to listen to the book and have that relaxed time, especially for the ones that don't sleep anymore.
Yeah, and I like that suggestion too. That's not something that I had thought of, is the audiobooks.
Yeah.
And maybe I'll add some links to free resources for that.
Audible right now is doing free because of the situation.
Yeah.
There's
so many free resources.
The Calm app also has sleep stories. I'm not sure if they're available for free, or there may be like a few that are free and you have to pay if you want, some of the other ones, but they're for kids. So it's a sleep story for kids, and they have different age groups.
That's great.
And they usually have like soothing music playing behind the person that's reading the story. And a lot of times kids will fall asleep just because they are set to help them, calm and fall asleep. They do body scans kind of built into the story. So
that's really great.
I
love these ideas. I'm learning about things I didn't know about yet.
Yeah. And it's just the Calm. It's called Calm.
Yeah, I've seen that app. I'm excited to check that one out. So once rest time's over, you do want to kind of ease them back into doing some activities. This is a good time to do like arts and crafts, or if you want to have another outside time, you could do that. I always love throwing in sing-alongs and dance parties because those can last as long as the child stays interested. And I have some cool resources at the end of the slides that are to some free resources, including like YouTube Kids, but then also Go Noodle, things like that, and how to get access to those. And then you build in a couple other things, maybe another home and academic thing, and then a snack time if that's appropriate for your child to have a snack. And then from snack time, which I would say keep around like 3 o'clock. That's typically, the kids typically would have snack around then. If they were going from Head Start, like a long day at Head Start, into a daycare situation or something like that, most providers give a snack at that time. And then from snack to dinner time, you're just plugging in more of those things. And again, just choose a couple things from each category. I don't have as much academic stuff in this time period. It's more just kind of fun, a lot of gross motor movement in the afternoon, really get the energy out. And then dinner time to bedtime, this is another spot in the routine. I would say keep it the same every single day. So from dinner time to bedtime, if you already had a good routine for that while your child was going to school, keep that same routine. If you didn't have a good routine for that, or it was a little wishy-washy before, this is a good time to lock that routine down. And I would say, eat dinner at whatever time your family usually eats. Have your child help make dinner if that's appropriate. Have them help clean up. Maybe a little bit of quiet playtime if there's enough time for that, depending on when you ate dinner. And then bath, brush teeth, pajamas, read some books, and go to bed, or whatever the child's typical routine is. These should stay the same every single day. This is a really important time to keep the routine the same. And this is, whether you're stuck at home or whether you're in the middle of a school year, having good bedtime routines helps kids sleep longer through the night. It really helps build that skill for when they're an adult. So this is, I can't stress it enough. I really strongly feel that this is one of the most important routines to build in a child's day.
Yeah, I would agree. And it's hard because my kids are like, well, we don't have to get up early in the morning. So why do we have to go to bed? Can't we stay up late? And I just keep expressing to them that once their schedule does go back to normal, like it's going to be really tough if you've slept till noon every day and, not done your normal routine. It's going to feel terrible. So.
Right. You definitely want to keep some normalcy in that, especially in a time of chaos. But I think that just as far as like full development of social development and life development, these are the kinds of routines that people carry over into adulthood. I mean, if you think about yourself when you're going to bed at night, you probably go through the same motions. I know that I do. I, get a glass of water and brush my teeth and, plug in my cell phone, and like it's all in the same order every night. And it's not something that I consciously even have to think to do. But then I find that I sleep pretty well because the routine just kind of eases you into that sleep time. So I won't harp on that any longer, but I'm pretty passionate about that one. And then step 3 is congratulate yourself. There's supposed to be a really cute picture here. I don't see it. There it is.
Oh, there it is.
So, I mean, you made it through a whole day with a structured routine, with your kids at home, with doing work from home, and, dealing with any number of stressors that are in your life. So take a minute to think back on your day as a parent, as a person, and just say like, you know what, I made it. I did it. This day's done. I did a good job. And even if you don't feel like you did a good job, just give yourself something to congratulate yourself on, so that you feel encouraged enough to wake up tomorrow and jump right back into that routine. And the final step is repeat it and repeat it again and repeat it every single day. Change up the fun activities, change up the academic activities as much as you possibly can. I do have some resources for fun activities and different types of arts and crafts. And I'm not sure if I have any academic stuff on here right now, but definitely some resources in the next couple slides. Keep all of your everyday routines the same and try to keep them around the same time every day. These are the only ones that I would say keep them around the same time. Everything else, you can kind of just be wishy-washy with it day to day and what works with your schedule and who's caring for your child that day and what kind of time you have as a parent to devote to one-on-one stuff with your child that day. Couple little variations. If it's appropriate, you can let your kids help make the schedule for the day. If you do that, I would suggest writing the activities down and have them choose out of a hat. So this is just the fun activities and the academic stuff, maybe the home stuff. All of the things that you're keeping the same every day, they don't have choice about. That's just part of the schedule, but you can include your children in that process, and you can add kind of free choice times. I mean, the kids probably have toys that they can play with. So there can be some times where it's like, oh, right now is your free play time. You can play with your toys as much as you want to. So that's a good kind of variation on that. It doesn't all have to be scheduled out with stuff to do with parents one-on-one.
Mm-hmm.
And then next I have some resources. Ashley, I wanted to know, do you have any questions or thoughts?
Is there any way of getting what all your resources or the slide like possibly emailed to me?
Yes. So I am recording this training right now, and I'm going to send a copy of it over to Jen at Head Start, and she's going to have teachers send it out to the different Head Start families. So just make sure that your teacher has a copy of your email address, and you will be able to get the slides.
Okay.
The other thing is I am available to support Head Start, so you can always reach out to me directly, and I can give my email address at the end.
Okay.
Some of the resources I have listed are arts and crafts, links to different types of easy crafts with kids. I have a homemade Play-Doh recipe that I've used before that turned out pretty good. And then some pointers on how to set up scavenger hunts are in the resources. So if you're inside, you're just making a list of common stuff with numbers or colors associated with it. You can make a new list each day or move around and use the same list. If you're outside, it's the same idea, but just outside things. If you Google kids scavenger hunt, there are literally a million free printable things you can find. I was going to put links on, but then I saw it was snowing yesterday, and I was like, well, we're not going to find any flowers, so you might need to mix and match a little bit. But there are loads of resources for kids scavenger hunts. And then I put a bunch of links to different types of movement, yoga, gross motor resources. They're YouTube videos, but these ones are ones I've had success using with kids before. Some of them are a little silly when you're watching them as an adult. You're like, I don't know why my kid likes watching this, but but I guess so. And feel free to jump in and do those with your kids if you want to. It makes it more fun. They're more likely to participate.
Yeah.
And then some general entertainment stuff. There's, just YouTube Kids, PBS Kids, Go Noodle. I put some virtual field trip links. There are a bunch of different websites where you can watch live streams from different zoos and different aquariums and all sorts of really interesting live streams that you can check out with your kids and talk about what the animals are doing. I do have a quick reminder on here. You do want to monitor your kids when they're using online resources. Not all of them are great. Some of them might look like they're watching a cartoon, but then the audio that's coming out of it is inappropriate. So definitely check in on what they're looking at when they're using online resources. And then last, I just have my email address up here. So Ashley, I'll give you my email right now.
Okay.
It is Tiffany, Tiffany, Cochran, Cochran, at autismai.com.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, and thank you for joining us. I hope you join us again next week. We're going to try to make this a weekly thing.
Okay.